right, hey, how you doing? I'm Chase Johnston-Lynch, your host here on Liverpool Community Podcast. And once again, I'm in the jungle, as Phil says. I love having trees grow out of my head. It just, it's like when an idea sprouts, it sprouts. But either way you look at it is, I'm joined here by a lovely young woman who is a community outreach worker for a real interesting CIC called Mind Clarity. And her name is Caitlin Lee. How are we doing, Caitlin?
Hi, Chase. How you doing? You alright?
Well, yeah, I'm all right there, Caitlin. Yeah, I mean, pretty much is that there are various different organizations about that are supporting people with mental health issues
Yes.
and stuff like that, but not many do it where they focus in on asylum seekers, do they?
No. That's actually part of the backstory where Mind Clarity originated from.
Really?
Um, so our CEO saw that there was a massive gap in mental health support for asylum seekers and refugees. That people couldn't access it because of language barriers, things like that, accessibility, funding, XYZ. These are all big issues. So she basically set out to say, okay, she herself has counselling background. She's a counsellor, qualified and certified. And she was like, okay, let's see if we can get them some bilingual counsellors. Let's see if we can provide these services in their native languages, their mother tongues, because counselling is scary enough to go with
Yeah.
like some big emotions, big feelings, big processing events essentially. And to do that in a language that isn't your first language, it's 10 times more difficult. So to be able to facilitate an Arabic speaker, an Arabic counsellor, or Farsi, or French, or Spanish, it makes the whole process a lot easier. And it was something that was lacking. So Mind Clarity aims to fill that gap.
And they do it very well in a sense where they offer such a service for free.
They do, yes. So they can offer counselling services to asylum seekers and refugees who are based on the Wirral. So Mind Clarity is located in Birkenhead. We operate from the Wirral, and any asylum seekers, refugees that live there can access our services for free. They get 6 sessions. All they have to do is a self-referral form, which they can fill in themselves, or they can get assistance with filling in, send it over to us, and we will match them up with a counsellor.
Now, Mind Clarity also has an origin in itself because it wasn't always Mind Clarity. I mean, you say that it's been around for close to like 4 years, but
Yeah, so
it has a kind of an origin.
yeah, it existed. It's existed with the name Mind Clarity for about 4 years, I believe it is. But they did operate out of another charity called World Change. They were very kind in that they offered them support and things like that when they were first getting started. And it was it was a very mutual relationship in the fact that they didn't have a counselling service for their clients, and Mind Clarity could provide that. So it was a very, very mutual agreement. But I believe it was March or April this year. Mind Clarity got their own office space. They've get their own things. They get their own referral channels. They've made their own connections, things like that. They've grown the connections that they had pursued when they were working with World Change, but they are now a fully independent organisation with their own offices and things like that. We have our own counselling rooms. We have our own community projects. We have our own bigger team now, things like that. So it has grown a lot over the past, I'd say, 10, 11 months.
Yeah, no, what's really interesting about this is the basis of the community projects because what you endeavor to do is one of your major ethos is to combat loneliness, isn't it?
Yeah, we our main core values are access to mental health support, whether that's through counselling, whether that's through community projects, combating loneliness, like you said. So people that don't necessarily need to go to counselling, their support requirements aren't that urgent, but they've got everyday life stresses. We've all got everyday life stresses,
Yeah.
and especially if they've been displaced, things like that, they might have more stresses or not have like the support network.
Yeah.
If they're not local, maybe their family aren't over here, things like that. They don't have that natural support network that some other people might have. So our community projects, we have a couple in development at the minute. where we just want to be able to create a safe space where people can go, they can be around other people, they can become more aware of the wider community of the area that they've been relocated to. They can meet people that have maybe gone through the same experiences that they have. Shared experiences are a great way to combat loneliness and aid mental health, because they're like, oh, okay, it's not just me. I can communicate with this person and they're going to know what I've been going through and things like that. So if we can facilitate a safe space that allows for that, and like at the minute, we're trying to organize a lot more like creative community projects, like music based, anything creative really. So they don't just become survival. It becomes like, okay, but no, you can go play an instrument again. You can go do this again. These are accessible to you. And it combats loneliness, even if they don't take part.
Yeah, and like, so you mentioned like this like music-based project, and like it even has like a cool name, Music Matters.
Yeah, we're looking at Music Matters for mental health at the minute, or something like that.
Now, this was set up by one of your volunteers, or?
Yes, so we have a volunteer placement, which is usually for like student counselors, student psychology. They can apply, they can come with us, do a placement. And at the minute, we have a couple of psychology students, and one of them is very much interested in providing music as a way of mental
Kind of like
health.
how, music and support works, right? It's like he's like talking about how music is a good way of.
Yeah, so it's more of like it's a more to make a comfortable environment so they can go do this, but then there's also someone there that can talk about mental health, and they're trained enough that it's not going to be like, for instance, if I was there, because I'm not a counsellor, I could only offer advice, but because they've got like some education in it, they have experience with it, they're able to say, okay, we're here to have this like community moment, this combating loneliness moment, but also I can provide you with some tools. If you're stressed, you can do X, Y, Z. If you're worried, you can do X, Y, Z. These are some ways to recognize that your mental health may be slipping a little bit, and these are some things that you can do to combat it. And it's all going to come from a very knowledgeable source. And that's why we get psychology students and counselling students to do these placements, because it allows us to expand on the services that we can offer, which is we want to be able to help as many people as possible.
It also is like it lulls a person into comfortability, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, like when two people or more are like of a like mind doing an activity.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not like I'm sitting in the chair or laying on the couch, or and somebody's lording over me like Sigmund Freud or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely far less intense. It's far less scary, and it can let people know that it's okay to have those little vulnerable moments without it being, as you say, as intense of having Sigmund Freud over you being like,
tell me about your mother.
Literally, it's like all your dark secrets, all your deep fears that you have. Tell me about them right now. And I met you 5 minutes ago. That can be quite intense for some people.
You have flying dreams, don't you?
It's a lot to undertake. Just like out of the blue one day on a random Tuesday just to go. So we kind of came up with this idea when we were thinking, okay, how do we bridge that gap? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a first steps to counselling. So yeah, they might need counselling in the end, but they might not. And it's just a thing to be like,
sometimes
okay,
it's just a conversation I need.
Yeah, it's as I said, like if they don't have that support network, who do they go to for that conversation? Mm-hmm. Who are they saying, look, I'm struggling a bit, especially if there's a language barrier.
Yeah, I need to be in a place where I can feel open and free.
And comfortable, and like very non-judgmental space and non-pressurized, as like they don't have to say anything if they don't want to, but existing in that space. So the first week they might not say anything, the second week they might not say anything, the third week they might be like, okay, this isn't very pressured, I might be able to say something, and then the week after that they might say a little bit more. So it's like it's that baby steps to get people comfortable. It's just everyone's on their own mental health journey, so it's just again making the space for that to happen.
Well, it seems like you have a good track record of volunteers, especially in an organization that is 70% volunteer-led, as you say, because there was another new project that you got set up now around social media.
Yeah, so this is another one of our psychology students. We're trying to get it so it's more accessible in the sense of its quick little tidbits. So they're looking at doing about 3 to 5 minute videos, something like that, that are just kind of on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, so we can maybe help out a slightly younger audience, things like that, and just be like kind of a mental health check-in type situation. So it's like a stop scrolling, take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, things like that, because everyone holds like unconscious stress. So if then they're like made aware,
Unconscious stress.
yeah, it's like, you know, you're just like your shoulders are tense, you're worried about something, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll just relax. And just to have like that video being like, all right, stop, name 5 things in your surrounding areas. And obviously the placement, the student will be able to do this a lot better because she's a psychology student, but something like that where it's just a reminder that check in with yourself.
Yeah.
And then they can develop into talking about specific issues. So it'd be like, if you're worried about this, these are some things you can do. If you're worried about this, these are some things you can do. And then we can write in like the description, if you do think you need more help, these are the resources. But I think it would be helpful just again on that kind of like first steps to counselling, like nip it in the bud type situation of like, just take a minute, check in with yourself, have a breathe, assess, and then see what you need to do.
I mean, I like the whole 5-minute tip factor because, like, my son who has Asperger's and everything, he's, loves to master the internet. And, but what he does is he makes little videos and he decided to make them about his own condition.
Oh yeah, just as like an info one.
Yeah, to explain, like, so when you have Asperger's and, you find yourself doing this or doing that.
Yeah.
And everything else like that. And he uses pictures and all that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
I just find it fascinating because he's experiencing it on a daily level.
Yeah.
And then, when he's actually able to ascertain it for himself and he puts it out there, it's like, who else is out there experiencing that same thing?
Yeah.
So, like, when you were talking about this, I was like, oh, yeah, that's pretty,
really cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah, no, exactly.
I guess it's kind of like the whole education side of it as well, and it demystifies it. Like, I think
that's the main thing about it.
Yeah, it's like,
demystification,
okay, this is a condition, or this is a stressor, or this is anxiety or depression, but what actually is that? So it's kind of like okay, well, if we take away all the scary, it's a mental health condition, it's a diagnosis, if you take away all that, which can be quite scary talk if people aren't familiar with like the medical jargon of it, and you're just like, okay, no, if like it's this, and it's people who have had it, like with your son, he's experiencing that every day, so he's like, this is all it is. This is what it is. This is what I experience.
But
this is me educating you.
But it's also the fact that like, when you don't know what it is, and other people tend to tell you what they think it is, and that's wrong misinformation, then you go down that path. Whereas that's why he feels like it's better to tell people from his side what it is, so that way it gives more clarity to the situation and stuff. But yeah, no, I mean, like, I'm just curious. It's like in dealing with like asylum seekers, like as you do, because you also as a community outreach worker and stuff like that.
Yes.
Even though you mainly manage the volunteer side of things, it's that deal of being able to, I don't know, I guess see what people's experiences when they finally do combat the loneliness, gain the learning knowledge. Get the support. How is it different for them from your perspective?
So it's always great to see when our services have helped someone in a positive way. We have a few partnerships with schools and things who, when people have to go through ESOL to learn English and things like that, we've had referrals from some of their tutors and things like that to our system, and then we get some feedback. Whereas like they've gone back to like their lesson or their tutor the next week and be like, oh, I feel a lot better. I feel a lot more like stronger. I feel more like connected. And we've had that feedback, and they've been like, they just really want to thank you for having the service. And it's great to see that, and to see that the gap in the mental health support for this sector and this category it's nice to see that it is making a difference. Like, you can see it in the communities. Like, sometimes they'll give us independent feedback, and they'll be like, okay, no, I had some sessions, I really loved it. Or we'll get people that re-refer themselves, and they're like, okay, they're not complete with their mental health journey, but the fact that they would come back to us afterwards, like a few months later, is just like, okay, well, we are helping you, because you wouldn't come back if we weren't helping you. It's
true.
It's nice that, like, you feel safe with us, that we will look after you and things like that. Or, well, better said, our counsellors will look after you and things like that. So it is nice to see, but honestly, the best thing is just when it's like they just can go and live their lives. They have that support, and then they don't need us anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's great. And with our community projects that we've got going on, we will get a bit more face-to-face acknowledgement of that, because they will be live sessions where it's face-to-face, whereas a lot of our counselling is more remote and online and stuff like that. So we don't really see the outcomes unless we receive the feedback in like written form or email. We don't really see the outcomes of that. But when we do the community development, like, just to see people be comfortable and happy, and then just get the feedback from them about what they want to see in the future, really. It's just seeing what they want, the facilities that they need. If they say, oh, I really enjoyed this, I'd like to maybe try a different type of, not class, but like support group or something, we're like, all right, we'll see if we can facilitate that and things like that. We never want to just have like the same one group all the time.
Yeah.
Like, because the amount of people that need support and the amount of people that like different things and things like that, it'd be good just to hear directly from them what they would like.
Right.
I don't know if I actually answered your question then, but I went off on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, no. So you have like several, because like you are constantly evolving, it seems. And what I like is that your organization likes to, swim around the creative community projects, type of thing. You have a couple of drop-in services, where people could just kind of like drop in. So like you said, you have like a art therapy as well as a listening ear drop-in service.
Yeah, so the art therapy is, we've got an art therapist there who facilitates them. She runs them, and there's usually 2 a week, and they're at different locations. They are more of a drop-in than the council ones, but we do have, like, they're referral forms, but in the sense of, like, you kind of just put your name down, so we know the numbers for interest type of situation. But then they can just go along. There's no pressure to be committed to like 6 sessions of art therapy. You can just go to it, and then if you don't go to the next week, you don't go to the next week. If you go to the 4th week, you go to the 4th week. If you only go to the 1, you just go to the 1. Whereas with the counselling, it's more, you do 6 sessions. Yeah. So it's dropping in that sense of, it's kind of like, we need to know how many people would be there, but generally, once you've put your name down for interest and register, you can just be like, okay, I'll go in. But yeah, our therapist who runs that, she is absolutely great. She's very creative, and she just provides the resources and a little bit of support to be like, okay, you could do this, you could do this. We have these type of things that you can do, and then it's just whatever they want to express, they can express. And it's a lot safer than words sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's just, sometimes it's easier just to get things down creatively than to actually.
Well, it's helpful that you said that you get at least like about 13 to 20 referrals a month. So
for our asylum seeker, the free counselling service, the counselling one, we do typically get around 13 to 20 a month. And then for the art therapies, it's usually like between 6 and 8 usually a session, things like that.
Yeah.
But obviously because they're on a more of a drop-in scale,
it
does differ. And then we've got the private sector as well, which is the same counsellors, but it's far more open. It's not just for asylum seekers and refugees that live on the Wirral. It can be for British citizens. We tend to aim it at those who are from low socioeconomic backgrounds and are vulnerable and things like that. And there is a fee attached to it, but it's far more reduced than...
Yeah, I mean, hey, there's always got to be money to be made somewhere. But, At least it's good that like you have both. Like as you said, you have a private sector for people who can afford it,
Yeah.
but then mainly like the main ethos of Mind Clarity is that it's a free
Yeah, the core value.
opportunity and service.
Yeah, the core value is to help the asylum seekers and refugees and those that need the support, but there's nowhere really that they can get it because places like the NHS, God bless them, they try, but they usually just get interpreters in for the counselling sessions. They don't typically have
Right.
the counsellors that are speaking that native tongue. Some may. I can't speak for all the NHS, but that's what we found. It's like they usually provide an interpreter, which can be a bit for the client. They may not want an additional person there because it might be hard enough to open up to one person. Never mind having your interpreter there that then has to filter everything you're saying to give to the counsellor, and things might get lost in translation and things
Yeah.
like that. So it's just we're very happy that we're able to provide this service.
But
That's
at least
far more
you're saying
direct.
that your service has counselors who know the language. So
Yeah.
especially when like there a lot of the sessions are one to one, but they are done on Zoom.
Yeah, mostly
And
they're
even
remote.
though yeah, well because of the pandemic
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
So I mean like people get used to like just sitting there in their underwear and telling you their problems. Oh what I gotta go somewhere? Hold on for a second. But I mean like in that aspect though is the main thing is those counselors have language skills
Yes,
that that they're trained in. So that I think that really probably serves the clients more
definitely. I
as
think,
opposed to just somebody else who's getting paid and
yeah, I think it definitely puts them more at ease,
yeah.
makes it more comfortable, makes it less daunting, makes it more private, if anything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was just curious, like, because you were saying like you guys deal in warm hubs as well.
So we don't directly do a warm hub. We can't facilitate that, but we're in contact with a lot of community centres that provide
Yeah.
warm hubs and like churches and things like that. We go speak to them. We let
Well,
them
this
know.
is a common problem. I was just saying this is a common problem right now,
Yeah,
especially this winter. It's a real strong factor,
it was awful this winter.
it's a difficult time and everything like that. What's your experience around that?
So we found that obviously not just asylum seekers and refugees. It's
No.
this winter it was everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone was struggling with with gas and electricity and energy and just everything. So these warm hubs, we made a real effort to go around to all of the local community centres, give them an outline of our services, give them flyers that they can then give to clients and things like that, because people will go to there and they can't facilitate mental health support. They're doing a wonderful thing with making the warm hubs and things like that. But if someone comes to them with like mental health issues and things like that, they can be a sympathetic ear, but that's about the extent of it. So we found that because a lot of people were using those hubs more and the added stress of the cost of living crisis and the energy crisis and things like that, people needed much more mental health support than they maybe necessarily did last winter, things like that. So it was good to communicate with the centres to be like, we have the service, signpost them to us if they need it. We know that they use your service because of the wonderful things you're providing. Let's work together here to support everyone.
Well, I mean, I just think it sounds like a very, how shall I say, strong and inclusive organization.
We try to be inclusive, definitely, definitely try to be
Well,
inclusive.
definitely inclusive. Um, but free service, paid travel,
Yes, we do.
you know.
For asylum seekers and refugees as well, we can. We have the capabilities to fund certain amount of travel if they need to come for face-to-face sessions or to use one of the three lovely counselling rooms we have. For I know three. Whew. If they need to use them, if they don't have privacy, things like that, they don't have access to a room that they can have their session in, they can use our space. But obviously getting there is an issue. So we can facilitate travel funding and things like that to a certain extent. But bus tickets, they're not.
Yeah,
We can usually get them
yeah,
bus tickets and things like that.
yeah. Yeah, and people probably saying, what? Pay travel to Birkenhead? What are you talking about? But like, yeah, Birkenhead's complicated. But
Birkenhead is very complicated.
yeah, I used to work over there. But either way you look at it, is that last thing I want to say is like, you mentioned Future Yard, which is a great organization, but we're starting a community champions forum that they wanted you guys to be a part of, or
So they just wanted to do a champions forum. I don't know too much about it because it was last week I attended it. But I know that they are looking to do some good work in the community to kind of do collaborations with other CICs and things like that. That was good to go to see how we can. It's more for the betterment of Birkenhead.
Yeah.
So we all have like the same goals. We want to help the asylum seekers and refugees in Birkenhead to know the area a bit better. If we can then say, okay, there's this music venue, you can go do like recreational like activities there. You can go to concerts and things. Again, that all just combats loneliness. It helps people who have been displaced. It makes them more familiar with the community. It just helps them, which
Yeah.
can help their mental health. So we had a real interest in being like, yeah, we want to make Birkenhead a safe space for them. We want to make it like be able to let our counsellors know that if they do want to do this, where they can go and things like that, and maybe even advertise certain things in our offices and things like we've got like a little community table thing in our front desk. But yeah, I think with CICs, it's all just about working together
yeah,
and collaborating.
help us help you.
Yeah, basically, it'd be like, look, we're all here for the community. We're all here to help people and to make our little part of the area better. And yeah, that's what I think it is at the end of the day. Just help us help you.
Well, I mean, Caitlin, you, as you said, you haven't been in the job long. It sounds like you're making inroads and continuing the ethos of the organization of Mind Charity and
Yeah.
everything like that. So, I mean, one last thing, do you have like a shared experience that was like significant for you?
We did have someone, we got some feedback from one of the students at Wirral Met who was on the ESOL course, and they'd done some counselling and things like that, and they just messaged us. It was such a heartfelt message. It was just lovely for them to be like, I've got a job now because I've got confidence again. I've got this. I'm doing X, Y, Z. I'm whatever, all because I was able to discuss these things and you facilitated that. And it's only benefited me. So it's nice when you get that feedback of someone being like, no, this is like the real time effects that your organization has had on me. Like,
Yeah.
and it just, because it can be quite stressful sometimes, obviously, trying to get people matched up with the right person and things like that. And when things like organizing community projects and things like that, but then you get a message like that and you're like, yeah, we're doing good work.
It's good to know that you affect change.
Yeah, and to be a positive impact on anyone's life, that's all we want to do. We want to support them
Definitely.
and help them and give them the tools so they can go and live their life.
And this is exactly what Mind Charity CIC does. I would like to thank you very much for joining me here
I'd
in
like
the
to-
studio, Caitlin Lee from Mind Charity CIC. And it's definitely an organization worth checking out. You want to tell people your socials since you're all over TikTok?
TikTok is
No.
pending. TikTok is coming.
I know, I'm joking. No, I mean your
So
socials.
we're on Instagram. We are mind_clarity_CIC. On Facebook, we are just Mind Clarity CIC. Our website is www.mindclaritycic.com. We've got all of our community projects, all of our resources, our rooms, everything is on the website. And on LinkedIn, Mind Clarity CIC again. But yeah, all the information you could possibly want is
Yeah.
over the course of those 3 socials.
Yeah, and I mean, as you can see, they're constantly changing or evolving their community projects. So
Yes.
definitely keep on the lookout
Yes.
for the next one. and
We'll
everything.
typically always advertise them on our Instagram stories and Facebook stories.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So, yeah, always be updated on anything that we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think it's fascinating. Giving people these opportunities and everything else like that. So, thank you again, Kayla Lee. I'm your host, Chase Johnston-Lynch. You've been listening to the Liverpool Community Podcast, and you know what? We out of here.